Guys, welcome back to another Q Let's Talk webcast. I'm Q. I'm going to have a good friend on the show, Marlena. She's going to be talking about mental and emotional health, which is something that's near and dear to my heart. So I know it's going to be a great show. Hope you get some good things out of it. We're going to provide our website, which is going to give you more information on these issues. So enjoy the show. See you soon.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sometimes the way that things are with like mental illness is that the way that we respond to things and whatnot. But what I've learned in my classes too, like when it comes to mental illness, literally, it is cultural. It's something that is considered bizarre and out of the norm for the culture and out of the norm for you. And those of us in the mental health professional, we have to use the DSM-5. And so there's this huge, giant, like, committee from all over the world who come together to figure out what a mental illness is, how it's classified, how it gets there, and all this stuff, because what is considered a mental illness in one culture, it may look different in another culture. And so I know right now in the United States, and especially with where I work with mentally ill people. I work with people who are sometimes emotionally disturbed, and it is overwhelming, and it is hard, and sometimes it really is cultural. But for the sake of this segment, what I will say about mental illness in general is that I see a lot of trauma-based mental illness. I have seen people who are diagnosed with schizophrenia who at the root of their schizophrenia is a whole lot of trauma. And over and over and over again, what I'm seeing is trauma that hasn't been dealt with. What I'm seeing is trauma that has not been addressed, and it's causing some long-lasting effects. It's creating not only mental illness, but it's creating poor emotional health of people who don't know how to talk to each other, people who don't know boundaries, people who are completely lost, in their situations. They're lost in the past, and they're lost in the present, and ultimately if you stay there, it will impact your future. And so that's pretty much what I'm seeing over and over again when it comes to people who suffer from drug addiction, who suffer from mental illness and what have you, is that ultimately it over and over again, it's a lot of trauma that has not been resolved, it hasn't been dealt with. I have had multiple trainings on a concept that's relatively new within, I want to say, the last 4 years, called trauma-informed care. And I heard trauma defined this way: it's a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. Literally, I don't think you can come with a more perfect definition for trauma other than that. And that's literally what it is. And so a lot of the fears and insecurities and the things that we as human beings pretty much deal with or whatnot, it literally stems from trauma. Most cases, or what I'm seeing over and over, it's a lot of trauma. And it's even perceived trauma. It's even things that, maybe some person didn't think of it as a big deal, but to the person that, who was the survivor, no, it's a really big deal, and it could be very slight. So the best advice I can give to anyone, honestly, first and foremost, please seek out, whether it be a friend or a therapist or somebody, to sort out your feelings, to sort out what's going on. Figure out just like how you can get past it, or how you can deal with it, or at least how you live with it. because that's a huge thing. Not dealing with stuff like that, you're going to bring it to every single relationship that you have. You're going to bring it to every situation. That's one thing. The other thing I'll say too, and I've heard this over and over again, and I believe this to be true, we have a lot of different like medications and stuff out there. And I'm not faulting medication. I struggle with anxiety and depression. I have been on Lexapro before, and I am on Prozac now. And it helps a lot. It helps me deal with my issues. But ultimately what I'll say too, don't be afraid to utilize like natural supports. Eat healthy, exercise. I recently joined a gym, so we'll see how that goes, because now I feel like I have the time to go and a little bit of motivation. So we'll see how that goes. Also, meditation is a great way. Learning deep breathing. I had a therapist show me once some great deep breathing exercises that for me were better than my medication. And deep breathing is one of those things that for me I can utilize anytime. So learning how to just like navigate these things, because when we have mental illness, when we have emotional disturbances within us, throughout the entire day, we're gonna be pretty much triggered. It's gonna happen. There's gonna be something there that it's gonna put you right on the spot. So it's in those moments, how are you gonna deal with it? What's gonna happen to you? How is that, gonna affect you? So that's one major area that I would say. Emotional, and I hear the term emotional sobriety a lot, and whatnot. And again, I think sometimes too, like emotional sobriety can be related to, sobriety from substance abuse and what have you, but it doesn't always have to be that way. I think you can be sober from substances and be emotionally unsober. So figure out those things. Figure out who you are in relation to other people. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't be afraid to let people in, which is hard, because I think one thing that I think too is like in this age of social media, in this age of Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and what have you, it may keep us connected to each other in some ways, but in all due honesty, I feel like we as humanity have never been more disconnected. We forgot how to talk to each other. We forgot how to meet each other organically and just have a conversation, and I think that's super important. Don't be afraid to do those things, because doing those things allows you to open up to other people and for other people to open up to you. And that is hard. It's hard for me. It's hard to tell someone sometimes, like when I'm struggling or what I'm struggling with, or to show some real sides of myself. I recently went to a conference, and that was one thing that hit me in the face. Like, don't be afraid to show people who you are and to let them in. I think so many times on social media, there's like this perceived image of how we want people to see us. What we want people to think about us. And that kind of thing. And believe it or not, those influences and whatnot, that has a huge, huge, huge impact on our mental and emotional health. And how we, the image that we portray to other people. And so those are some things I would think about in terms of emotional health. Like, don't be afraid to let people in. Don't be afraid to communicate with someone, which I'm terrible at. Like, I'm still, those are things I'm still working on for myself, is learning how to effectively communicate my needs, my wants, my desires, and my boundaries. But those things are really, really, really important, that I foresee. So find a hobby, find a group of friends who encourage you, who push you to do better, and at the same time, like, if you need medication, go get it. Go get it. But if there's things that you can do in the moment that you don't have to go down that route, try that first. Medication shouldn't be the first thing that we run to. Let's try other things first, because medication will often have some side effects that are unwanted. I know for me, like with Lexapro, like when I first started taking it, I couldn't sleep at night. I had to learn how to take it during the morning, not in the evening, because I had insane insomnia. And then, in all due honesty, not everything, like Lexapro ended up not working for me for a variety of reasons. So I don't really know what else to say, other than those particular things. Is just not being afraid to share feelings. Be wary of your triggers. And figure out what are some things, like when you reach those triggers, what are some things that you can do that will help you get through those moments where you're triggered. Ultimately, I don't want to say the word avoid, because ultimately we have to live our life. Don't be afraid to live. I have had friends who've had mental illness. I have a friend in Oregon who has schizophrenia, and sometimes he's good and he's able to talk, and then sometimes he stops talking to me and I don't know what's going on. And the other thing I'll say too, though, I accept my friend for who he is. I ultimately accept him for who he is and where he's at. And when he's not talking to me or whatnot, that's simply not my issue. I am not there to take on the problems of other people. That will also create some hindrances and some huge just burdens that I am not there to carry. And even as a mental health professional or whatnot, as a social worker too, I can't do anything that client doesn't want to do unless they are a danger to themselves or somebody else, or they're deemed gravely disabled. And being deemed gravely disabled means that person, I don't know, they're seeing things and their delusions or hallucinations are causing them to be very unsafe. That sort of thing. So ultimately, it's like if they are a danger to themselves or someone else, or they're deemed gravely disabled, only then I, as a mental health professional, can step in and do something. But there's so many ways to prevent before it gets to that point. If you need help, please go get it. If you're having thoughts of wanting to hurt yourself or what have you, realize that you are not a mistake. Your life is worthy, and that sort of thing. So don't be afraid to reach out for help. There's so much in the way of stigma, in terms of mental illness. People don't want to be deemed crazy. People don't want to be deemed psychotic. People don't like having labels. And I get it. I 100% get that. People don't want to have those labels. At the same time, there's a reason the DSM-5 exists, and there's a reason that we have therapists and social workers and psychiatrists. It's because that we are human beings, and sometimes we're flat out not okay. And there's no shame in admitting it. There's no shame in admitting we're not okay. There's no shame in reaching out for help, whatever that may be. So please reach out for help. That is the one thing that I'll say first and foremost. If you need therapy, go get it. If you need medicine, go get it. But also too, it's like I said, eat right, go exercise, meditate, read, have a relationship with your higher power, pray, those sorts of things. Learn some deep breathing. Those are things to me that I find that it's going to take you a whole lot farther in both your mental and emotional health than most other things. You know, be mindful of the self-talk. That's the other aspect too that I'll say. Mental and emotional health. Negative self-talk. Negative self-talk is kind of like what you say to yourself when you're looking in the mirror. We don't want to do that. That will also be something that can bring about some serious implications on your mental and emotional health. Don't look in the mirror or think to yourself, I'm stupid, or I'm fat, or I'm ugly, or whatever the case may be. That's negative self-talk. That will hurt you in the end. Don't do that. And so many times, those are warning signs for me that this person might be struggling with some suicidal ideations when I hear that. You don't want to do that. So yes, be mindful of the negative self-talk, because yes, that will have some implications towards your mental and emotional health, and that's not what we want. Learn to get up in the morning, look in the mirror, say 5 positive things to yourself. 5 positives, whatever that may be. Say 5 positive things. That is an absolute necessity, and people may say, oh, that feels silly. It's not silly to want to build yourself up in that way. To build up your own self-esteem. That's not silly. So that's pretty much what I have for mental and emotional health. I love you guys. To my friend Q, you are an amazing human, and
Hey guys, thanks for watching the show. Normally the show ends right here, but since emotional and mental issues are a really major thing in this society today, I just wanted to come back on and especially reach out to anyone who's struggling out there. You can email us 9742qfoster@gmail.com. We will respond. And of course, the resources that we provided on our website. I want to once again thank Marlena for devoting her time to the craft. She's been counseling for several years, and she really brought a lot of knowledge to the topic. So once again, please reach out. We have resources on the website. You can email us. Anything that we haven't covered, please reach out and ask us about it. Thank you all once again for watching the show. We're going to have more great shows in store for you. I'm Q. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. Thanks for watching. This show was brought to you by the help of the support team and viewers like you. Tune in next time.